So this figure is really interesting. This chart reports on the percentage change in advertising spending by medium for last year, 2012. And, you know, if I was a newspaper, this would be pretty depressing for a couple of reasons. All right. So obviously, what's very clear is that for traditional print media, both newspapers and magazines, there has been a pretty significant drop in spending by advertisers in those media last year. But then, you know, we've been talking about how, well, you know, the future of newspapers is online, and newspapers are just going to have to shift their operations online and find a model that sustains newspapers economically, making use of new media. But then we look at advertiser spending for online media, and online media ad revenues have dropped 5% in 2012. So it's like, okay, I'm the Hartford Courant, I'm a newspaper, my revenue from advertising is dropping, and if I go online, well, advertising revenue online is dropping, and I'm having a hard time persuading subscribers to pay for my newspaper online. So things don't look very positive for newspapers given this figure and recent trends. So do you see something different? But my read of it is not very positive for newspapers. So we get back to this major problem of the chapter, which is, given the declining fortunes of daily newspapers in their print editions, what can be done to sustain journalism? What can be done to ensure the success of news organizations that have been focused previously on print newspapers? Now, this section provides a number of new possible models, economic models, for journalism to sustain news organizations online. And I just want to get your sense of what you think of some of these proposals. Some involve having internet companies like Google become sponsors for news organizations. Or another idea is converting newspapers into non-profit entities so that they're not quite so focused on bottom line profits as they usually have. Another idea is to encourage public radio and TV stations to focus more on providing local news and information, essentially to pick up the slack where daily newspapers have increasingly been unable to provide that kind of local community news. Another idea is to encourage universities, especially universities with journalism programs, to get more involved in news reporting in their local communities. So what do you think of these ideas? Do they seem plausible to you? Can you think of any other ideas for sustaining newspapers and journalism into the future? As we end this chapter, it's important to call attention to the essential role that journalists and reporters provide for us in society. Journalists and reporters provide essential news and information to us about what's going on in our society. Journalists inform us what's happening in our government, in our community, in society, and we rely on journalists to report on abuses of power, both in government and in business. But the chapter ends here with some really stark statistics about what a dangerous profession journalism is. I mean, from 1992 to 2012, over 900 reporters were killed in the line of duty. Many journalists were killed in the Iraq War, covering that war alone, and it's really important for us to know what is going on, especially in times of war and military conflict. That said, we really get a sense of journalism and journalists under siege in this chapter, with newspapers and news organizations struggling. That's led their parent companies to have really extensive cutbacks in expenses, so that for most newspapers, there have been really draconian layoffs of reporters and journalists. Now, that's obviously not good for these individual reporters or journalists themselves, but I think at some point we have to ask, what are the social consequences of news organizations and their parent firms cutting back on news gathering, cutting back on the number of full-time employed journalists that are going to cover these important stories? Does this mean that there are going to be fewer reporters out there that are going to report on the next abuse of power, the next Enron, or the next cover-up in government? Who's gonna do the legwork for us to get this information that we need to make certain that our society runs in a humane and ethical manner? Now, we also have to ask some tough questions about the role of newspapers in society. I mean, this goes back to the question that I asked at the start of this, which is, are newspapers vital in our society today? Do they play some essential, unique role in terms of reporting on events in our society, informing us about critical events and issues in society? Or can we say that there's nothing special about newspapers? Let them die. Could we say that newspapers will simply be replaced by some other online entity that will provide the same source of news and information as newspapers did, but simply in a different venue, in a different place? But then we still have to ask, who's going to be paying for the salaries of journalists to do all this reporting? I mean, can we just rely on freelance bloggers to post information about current events? Doesn't reporting and investigative journalism, doesn't that really cost a lot of money? Who's going to foot the bill for this? Especially as you and I don't really want to pay for this, that we want to get our information for free. So I guess the question is, how is all this going to play out? What is the future of newspapers? Do we need them? And will we still, as a society, have sufficient sources for news and information so that we can remain informed and engaged citizens in a democratic society?